we had confirmation that Judge Merchan violated ethics rules. We've completed now the 6th week of America held hostage. The trial, at least the testimonial part of the trial, is over. It's set to go to the jury next week after the Memorial Day holiday. It looks like the government and the defense attorneys will make their closing arguments on Tuesday, I think, with the jury getting being authorized to deliberate on Wednesday, or at least that's what I understand to be happening. But things have gotten even worse, if it were possible, up in New York, with misconduct confirmed by Judge Merchan and other misconduct engaged in by Judge Merchan even during the week, and a completely crazy testimony by Michael Cohen. And I think I had a quick video to open up the week, and when I made it, I didn't even know how bad it was going to get. Let's go to that first video.
Boy, what a day up in New York in the sham prosecution of Donald Trump. The prosecution's star witness, Michael Cohen, admitted under oath to stealing tens of thousands of dollars from Trump himself. Rather than prosecuting him, Alvin Bragg is prosecuting his crime victim, Mr. Trump. What a dramatic illustration of the miscarriage of justice, the kangaroo court proceedings up there. And on top of that, it was confirmed over the weekend that Judge Merchan was dinged by the Ethics Commission for Judges up in New York State for his illicit contributions to Joe Biden and other Democratic causes that, again, demonstrates his anti-Trump bias and undermines the confidence, to the degree anyone can have confidence, in these proceedings being fairly administered under law.
Well, first, let's talk about that Cohen testimony. He admitted that he got 60, well, depending on the media, this is how interested the media is in it. They can't even figure out how much money he stole based on the testimony. Some folks said 30, others said 60. I looked at that testimony and thought it was 80. Either way, it was tens of thousands of dollars. Cohen admitted to stealing under oath from Trump. And he's not the one being prosecuted. Trump is. So literally, as Cohen is being used by prosecutors unethically, in my view, he's a notorious criminal and liar. And why would they vouch for his testimony by putting him up there? They can't. That's why it's unethical. And he admits to a crime. This district attorney, Bragg, hasn't prosecuted him for stealing from Trump. Instead, the crime victim, Mr. Trump, the former president, is sitting in the dock. Just incredible. And on top of that, we had confirmation that Judge Merchan violated ethics rules. Now, under the rules, judges, it's probably no surprise to you, if you're a judge, you're not supposed to make contributions, generally speaking, to political candidates or campaigns. And Judge Merchan made a donation to the Biden campaign. He also made donations to anti-Trump Democratic operations, some progressive or, get Trump out of office, or, I forget the language the PACs or the political operations used, but they were obviously partisan anti-Trump, pro-Democratic party. And there's nothing wrong with doing any of that work, but as a judge, you're not supposed to give money in that regard. And he broke the rules. And this is the tweet I used to explain it. As we begin the 6th week of America, and Trump being held political hostage by Democratic Party politicians in New York, the case against Trump is in a state of legal and ethical collapse. Even before the trial started today, it was leaked over the weekend that Judge Merchan received a caution from New York's judicial ethics body for his illicit contributions to the Biden campaign and other anti-Trump political groups. Judge Merchan, will he shut the case down? I mean, the tweet speaks for itself. Let's go back. So what happened was the Judicial Commission up in New York the Judicial Ethics Commission, there was a complaint. I don't know who filed the complaint. It's not clear who filed the complaint against Judge Merchan for these illicit campaign contributions. And it's one of the reasons that President Trump had sought Merchan's recusal, because the contributions, which were unethical and violated judicial rules, ethics rules, demonstrated bias. Actual bias, if not the appearance of bias, against Trump, and he should have recused himself, which he's refused to do. And it turned out that he had received a dismissal with a notice of caution, a caution warning. Now, under the rules of the law in New York, such notices are not to be made public by the commission. I didn't see that Judge Merchan couldn't make it public. Why didn't he make it public? Wasn't it relevant or material, whatever the lawyers use, to the recusal debate? Shouldn't he be disclosed this finding by the official ethics body of the judicial branch in New York that he violated the rules? And by the way, a dismissal with a caution means you don't have any good reason for doing what they're slapping you on the wrist for doing. And it can be used against you in the future. So just another confirmation that that trial is corrupted and compromised. Then on top of that, Merchan just went ballistic in the middle of the trial. And I talked about it on another video later in the week. Hey everyone, quick Trump trial update. Judge Merchan is out of control. He's the Democrat donor judge who yesterday went ballistic in the court, screamed, cleared the courtroom out. He seems to be in potential violation of judicial ethics rules in his misbehavior at the trial yesterday. Here's the relevant rule. A judge shall be patient, dignified, and courteous to litigants, jurors, witnesses, lawyers, and others with whom the judge deals with in an official capacity. Judge Merchan was none of those yesterday, and he should be held accountable. And on top of all of that, today, Judge Merchan issued jury instructions, or ruled on them, that essentially would rig a guilty verdict against Trump. This is what he found, according to Politico. To find Trump guilty of felony-level falsification of business documents, the jury must unanimously find that Trump falsified the documents in order to commit or conceal a separate crime. But the jurors do not all have to agree on what that separate crime was, according to Judge Merchan. I tell you, is there a more lawless approach to a jury trial than to, in the end, allow jurors to individually pick unknown crimes over which then to convict someone? It is a banana republic kangaroo court up in New York. You know, you wonder why it looks like I'm going to kind of explode sometimes. I just can't believe what's happening. I can't believe it. So the background on Merchan's explosion was, the former attorney, allegedly, for Cohen was testifying. And I guess he was testifying to things that Merchan thought he should not be able to testify to. So there were objections, and they were getting sustained. And in this case, Merchan tends to sustain anything that seems to help Trump in terms of testimony. At least that's my perception. Not all the time, but in significant measure, that's what he's been doing. And Costello's been a lawyer for 50 years up in New York, so he was making it clear he was unhappy with Merchan's objections. And rather than engage as appropriate with the witness for maybe kind of being out of line, he went ballistic. And Judge Merchan is supposed to maintain a calm judicial temperament at all times. It doesn't mean that he can, it doesn't mean he has to tolerate misconduct, but it does mean he's got to keep himself in control. And as I tweeted, you know, the rules of judicial conduct, and this is a rule that exists across virtually the entire country for state and federal judges. This is a standard rule. And when a judge goes ballistic and starts screaming in a courtroom, yelling at a witness, yelling clear the courtroom, including telling the media to get out, he's not acting in accordance with the rules, as I say here today. A judge shall be patient, dignified, and courteous to litigants, jurors, witnesses, lawyers, and others. There, it's black and white. So, just another example of a judge who is kind of, I think, in a spot because his misconduct has been exposed by the whatever. I don't know how that letter he received from the Judicial Commission about his illicit contributions to Biden came out, that caution. No judge wants to even get a slap on the wrist from an ethics commission. That's for sure. So getting a dismissal with a caution is not something Judge Merchan wanted coming out. And I think he took it out on the litigants, specifically Trump, who he hates. And then on that jury instruction issue, now the lawyers will tell you that jury instructions are very important in cases. Because, and if you've served on a jury, you might, recall that in the juror, when you're back deliberating in a case, if you're doing your job as a juror, you really are following the instructions closely. It kind of tells you step by step what sort of things you're supposed to find and what issues you're supposed to consider in order to come to a verdict one way or the other. And so one of the scams about this case is that Trump is being charged with falsifying business records, even though there's no evidence we now know from the trial that happened. And it's being elevated to a felony, allegedly, because it was done in the furtherance of another crime. The trick is that other crime hasn't been named, and there's been no evidence he's committed any other crime. So not only has he not been told what the crime is, the jury hasn't been told what the crime is. And Judge Merchan's getting around that by saying the jury can just make it up, practically speaking. That there needs to be no majority or no unanimity for the jurors in what that other big crime supposedly is. So two jurors can say, oh, Trump was doing it to mess with New York election year law. Two jurors can say Trump was doing it as part of a conspiracy. Two jurors could say Trump was doing it to mess with federal election law, even though federal election law can't be enforced at the state level, certainly not by this judge in these circumstances. So you don't have to have any agreement among the jurors as to what the actual underlying crime was that these records were supposedly messed with. And there's no evidence they were messed with, just to be clear. Cohen provided zero evidence that they were messed with or anyone lied about anything. And he's the witness. He's the witness that ties, supposedly, Trump to it all. And there's significant evidence that his testimony on that was false. And rather than dismiss the case outright, meaning directing the jury to come to acquittal because there's no evidence that a jury could, in good faith, use to find a guilty verdict, it looks like Merchan's going to just let it go. And who knows what this jury's going to do, especially given these instructions. So all these issues, obviously, Trump is going to, if he loses, is found guilty one way or the other, he's going to appeal. But in the meantime, he's going to be found guilty as part of this political operation to guarantee a talking point for his political opponents in a campaign, which is what this all is about, election interference. And, you think, well, maybe it's just New York. They're just, it's New York and it's a one-party state. And what do you expect from New York, right? As if that justifies it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.